Okay, now I am recording. So, but God's favor, we are still waiting for you. If you are currently here, I would like to take your question so that I can also explain it together. Now, if you are currently on GitHub, the most important thing is this green button or this plus button. They both do the same thing. What you are trying to do is create a new repo. So you create a new repo by clicking here or by clicking here for new repository. So both of them do the same thing. If you click any one, it will open something like this for you where you create a new repo. You add the name of the project. Now, if the assignment is JavaScript, you write JavaScript, so and so, whatever you want to name the assignment, you write the name here. For example, I can call these variables as an example. So I have a name variable. The second thing to do is make sure that it is on public. Just leave it on public here. Now, the reason why you are leaving it on public is because when you send the link or share the link with anyone, they can be able to see it. They will see it. But if you keep it on private, even if you share the link, they will not see it. So it's important that you make sure to leave it on public. That's the only thing. The final thing is to click on the green button to create, and you have created. So there are 3 steps to create it. Give it a name, make sure that it's on public, and then go ahead to click the green button to create. And that's all you need to do. So when you click on create, it should create the repository for you, and you will see something like this. Now, there are other ways to explain to you how to use these commands. We're going to do that in our subsequent classes. But all you need to do when you arrive here is to click on this thing that says upload an existing file. Upload an existing file. So you click here to upload an existing file. Here it is asking you to drag and drop your project folder or your directory. Now you can click here to select. You start selecting, going through to select, or you can just drag and drop. Now this is my folder that I want to push to GitHub. What I can do is drag it and drop. And I can't. Well, let's try again. I can't. Let's try again. I'm only clicking it. I think I'm using, sorry. Okay, so what I do is just drag and drop anywhere here. So the moment you drag and drop, it will upload all the files in that folder that you click submit. So that is all you need to do. If you've done that, then you can share it with anybody. Make sure that you are seeing the name of the folder or the files that you have uploaded. Now, to share it with anybody, you can click here and copy this link by clicking here. So this is the link you share with me for your assignment or with anybody. Or you can also copy the link here to share. That is all it takes to actually push to GitHub. And nice, okay. So that's on the end. Now, if you still have a challenge with that, drop a comment in the question and answer. I will do a short video on how to do that again, and I will share the video with you. But that aside, we can proceed with our class for today. Now, the class for today, we're still continuing on JavaScript, because the moment you understand JavaScript, you understand 80% of backend. Now, backend is running on Node.js, so if you understand JavaScript, which is backend, you can't get into the video call. How? You should be able to. You should be able to. Let me see if I can invite you. Sorry. Okay. I think there's no way to invite you personally, but check, you should see a button to add or join the link. I think this the call link or the video link. Try joining with this link. Now this is the link to the group. you should see your join button. So leave the group and try coming back again. You should see how to join. I'm trying to see if I can invite you, but I'm not seeing that option here. Okay, I'm not seeing the option to invite you to join the call, and that's okay. So, but let's continue now. For the person who is having issue how to start, now the first thing you need to do is to open VS Code here. Now, since you are starting, you're running on Windows, you just click on VS Code. These are codes I've already written. Now, what you want to do is click on Files. Now, you will see something that says Files. You click on Files, and then you open folder. The next thing you see is open folder. Then you open the folder you created. That's all you need to do. But if you can't do that, it's fine. All you need to do is just drag the folder you created and drop it on the VS Code icon. Why am I not able to easily drag and drop? Why am I not able to easily drag and drop? Okay, so just drag the folder you created and drop it on VS Code. That is how to start. So either you click on files. Now for you that is using Windows, you should see options here. You see file, you see other options here. So you click on file and then click on open folder. Search for the folder you created and open the folder. Make sure you are seeing the name of the folder here, or you could just drag the folder and drop. That is how to start with VS Code. Now the next thing you want to do is you need to create a HTML. So create a file for HTML and start the project. Just a basic project, and I think I should make this bigger. Okay, that's enough. Now, if you've created your HTML, the next thing you want to do is create JavaScript, because you want to write JavaScript file. So you create HTML, you create JavaScript. The reason why you are creating HTML is because you want to see your JavaScript codes or whatever you are doing. You want to see it on the browser. That is the only reason why you are creating HTML. Now, if you don't create HTML, you will not see it on the browser. So you create HTML and link your JavaScript to the HTML. So if you link your JavaScript to the HTML, you should be able to see whatever thing you do in your JavaScript. You should see it on the browser. And how do you do that? You click, you open the folder. Maybe this is the file. Just open that file, the HTML, with your browser. There are so many ways to open it. You can either open with live server, you can either open it directly, double click on it, it will open. However you want to open it, just make sure that you open that HTML on the browser. That is all. So if you do that, you are done. That's how you start with JavaScript and how to do JavaScript. Now, let me know if you don't understand it. I will also do a short video within the week and also share with you. So if you don't still understand how to start it up, drop a comment on the question and answer topic, and I will attend to that. I will just create a short question. So for those who are joining us, like I said, I've created a topic for attendance. Now, from the beginning of the class to the end of the class, feel free to drop a thumbs up in that on that topic. So I will see that as your attendance. From the beginning of the class, that's 3 p.m. to the end of the class, and that's towards 6 p.m. So if you have started your project, we can move on to the next thing. Now, somebody said she doesn't really understand how to create variables and all of that. So I will just run through that quickly and we can proceed from there. The first thing I want to do, though, I also want to confirm that you can see my screen, and this font size are okay for you. Now, if you can see my screen and this font size are okay for you, please let me know by dropping a thumbs up. If you can see my screen and this thumbs up, this font size are okay, please drop a thumbs up for me. If you can still see my screen and this font size are okay for you, please drop a thumbs up. Okay, that's one. Any other person that wants to drop a thumbs up? Now, if you are still confused on how to start your project or how to start coding with JavaScript, drop a comment in the question and answer group. I will do a short video after the class and I'll drop it. Okay, I will increase the font size again to this. And I'll also increase the font size here. I think this should be better now. But if it's not, please let me know. I can check that. Okay. Okay. Nice. So let's continue. Now, for the person who said you can't create a variable, you don't understand how to create variables. Now, what I would do is I will just run through. There are different kind of variables you can create. Now, I may not explain all of them, but just show you how to create. This is a string. This is numbers. This is Boolean. This is null, undefined. So these are 5 types of variables. Now we say to create a variable, the first thing you need to understand is you initialize the variable with const, but normally you can use var. Now the name of the variable here should be name of variable. See the way I am naming the variable. Then the assignment operator and whatever is the value of the variable. Now this var keyword here represents that we want to declare a variable. Now whatever you want to name that variable, you replace it here. You can name it anything. You can name it anything, but what comes here is the name of the variable, whatever you want to name it. And the next thing is the assignment operator equal to, and then the value of the variable. The value of the variable. So if you have this, this is how you declare a variable. Now the only difference is we are no longer using var, rather we will use const and let. So we use const and let. And I said in the last class, always use const. So meaning that instead of var, you'll be using const. Always use const unless you know that the value of that variable will change. Meaning that initially the variable can be a is equal to 0. And later a can then be equal to 2 or 3 or 1 or 4. But you just know that initially the value is something else, but later the value will change. That is the only time you use let. Otherwise, always use const to declare your variable. That is how to declare a variable. And what I have done here is I declared a variable here by adding quotes to the value. Any variable you declare by adding quotes to the value is considered to be a string. It doesn't matter whether it's a number, it's a boolean or null or whatever. Once it has strings as part of the value, it is automatically a string. That is a string variable. The next thing is I'm declaring a variable here with let, and the name of the variable is a, and the value of the variable is 0. So anything between 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to where number ends is defined as a number variable. A number variable has any value or any variable that has its value between 0 to infinity where number ends. That is what we declare as a number variable. Okay, I am currently in the topic question and answer topic. If along the line you have any question, please feel free to drop it here. I will attend to it. Now the next one is a boolean. I can declare a boolean here. Const is married, and like I said, after the word const, the next thing that comes is the name of the variable. So this variable name here is not stored with JavaScript. This is my own name. I am just naming it this, whatever you want to name it. After const or after let, the next thing that comes is the name of the variable. And then you put your assignment operator, which is equal to, and then you can drop the value of the variable. So for a Boolean, it is either true or false. So a Boolean is either true or it is false, like this. So I could just define it as true or I define it as false. So this is a Boolean variable. Now a null variable is a variable that you declare but we never have a value. That is a null variable. The variable will be declared, but anytime you access the value is empty. The next one is undefined. Undefined is a variable that you declare. For example, let y. You have declared the variable, and later you say y is equal to maybe 5 or is equal to maybe a string. However you want to declare it, like this. So initially here we are declaring y, but we are not assigning a value to it. We are not. So we just declare it, and later we then assign the value. So this type of variable is known as undefined. It's undefined because as at the time you declare it, it doesn't have a value. But after, or maybe later in the future, you're going to assign a value to it. That is undefined. So that is all we've done. Now, if you want to link this file in JavaScript, all you need to do is type SCR, like short for script. Just type SCR and then this will come out. This is the one you need. The script with source. The script with what? SRC. This is the one you need. You click on it and then inside the source you can link it with / and select index.javascript. That is how you link your JavaScript. Now when you link it, you then open this HTML file in your browser. Right click anywhere in your browser and click on inspect. You should see your console here. So just click on console, you have that here. Now that's how you start, and that's how you link it, and that's how you see it. So for today, we've been able to cover strings, numbers, booleans, null, and undefined. That's perfect, and that is nice. Now the next thing we want to go to is, for example, let's say we are asked to declare a variable for a student. For example, most of you are possibly going to get jobs in schools with the admission board, hospital management. You could get jobs maybe in e-commerce organizations. So you can get your, but let's talk about those who might get their jobs, maybe get jobs with JAM, for example, as the admin, or maybe the webmaster, or maybe the software person there. So what you want to do, say you are asked to declare a variable for every student. Maybe declare the name of a student. So you say student 1, student number 1, his name is equal to David, and student number 2, his name is equal to Samson. Now these are strings. You are trying to declare variables here. So what you are doing here is trying to declare the name of students in a particular, people who wrote JAM for a particular year. So imagine the number of people that write JAM in a year. It's possible that there could be up to hundreds, thousands, or millions. Now you are not going to be declaring one variable for everybody, one variable for everybody, one variable for everybody. No, that is not what you will do. There's something called a variable that holds multiple values. For example, if you want to declare the name of 300 students, instead of using your string variables, you use arrays. So arrays is a variable that holds multiple values. For example, I can come here and declare student for 2024, like this. So if I declare student for 2024 like this, sorry, let me just make this bigger, is equal to, and then I put square bracket. So the moment you see square bracket here, it means that I declare the variable, and the value of that variable is an array. So it can be array of strings, it can be array of numbers, it can be array of booleans, or array of null, and so on and so forth. Here we have 2 students. It's possible that we might have 20,000 students, 30,000 students. So instead of declaring 1, 1, we cut their value and we add it here. Separate with comma, we cut this value 2, and then we add it here. So we can remove these ones. Instead of declaring them 1, 1, now we have only one variable, but inside the variable, we have different variables. We can still add something here. We can still add another one like that, and we can also add another one and say like this. So currently I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 students, and all of their names are written as strings, but they are all stored in one variable called what? Student for 2024. Now this is an example of an array, and this is how you declare an array. Now an array can not only be strings, it can also be numbers. For example, I have this, I put 12, I put 45, I put 66, I put 57, I put 89, and so on and so forth. So this is what we call an array. An array is a variable that holds multiple values. So it holds multiple values. Just to confirm that I am still recording and you can still see my screen. So if you can still see my screen, please drop a thumbs up for me so that I know I can continue. If you can still see my screen, please drop a thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. That's good. That's good. Thank you. So this is how we define an array. Now, if the array contains only strings, it is called array of strings. If it contains only numbers, it is called arrays of numbers. Now, we can also have a mixed array. Const mixed array is equal to an array that has numbers, booleans, has strings, and has maybe null. So if it has different data types, it is a mixed array. So these are possibly the different types of arrays that you might see. This is what we call an array. And every array has array methods. So there's array properties and method, just the way strings have properties and methods. And like I explained in the last class, properties are what you can define it by, and methods are what it can do. So properties, array properties, are those properties you can define arrays by, and then the array methods are the things that arrays can do. This is how we define properties and arrays. So can array hold strings and numbers at the same time? Exactly, it can, which is why I define a mixed array here. Now an array can also hold strings, variables, data type, and also objects. Now we're going to come to objects later, but let's define what properties means and what arrays means. For example, if I want to know the length, how many items are in this array, what I can do is console log students. Now, sorry that I started this with capital S. Now it's supposed to be small letter. The first word is supposed to be small letter. Then the second and the third and the fourth words can all be capital, start with capital letters. So I have this, an array. If I console log it, If I console log it and then refresh my browser, I will see all the items in that array. And here you are seeing a number 5. 5 means I have 5 items inside that array. And if I open it up, I will see that at index 0, I have David. Index 1, I have Samson. Index 2, I have Lucy. Index 3, I have Gabby. And at index 4, I have Martins. Now this is what an array can do for you. It does. We can also check the length of the array by adding dot length to the name of the array. So if you add dot length, you are only checking for how many items are in that array. So if I refresh it, you see I have 5 here. Okay, how do you use console? Now, if you have linked your JavaScript here, now because you are using Windows, what you need to do is just go to the file, or maybe just click here, just right click. There are so many ways to open it. So let me just explain one. Just right click here and then say reveal in File Explorer. You should see it here. Or maybe open with. Now open with may not work for you. So what you just want to do is go to that folder, double click on HTML so that it will open up in the browser. That's all you want to do. Or right click on it and open it with the browser. That's what you want. So once you click on it and it opens on the browser, right click anywhere in the open space and click on inspect. So when you open your HTML with the browser, right click anywhere on the browser and click on inspect. So once you click on inspect, you will see something like this. So if I go on large screen, you will see something like this. So what I mean is, if you open it, you will see like this. Right click on it and click on inspect. So if you click on inspect, it will open something like this. Now you should have this plus icon, but if you don't, check all the icons you have here. You are looking for console. So click on console and your console part will open. That's how you use console with JavaScript. So let's continue. And like I said, adding dot length to the name of the variable is going to tell you how many items are in the variable. But if you don't add dot length, it's also going to tell you how many items are in the variable. So it will also tell you here that you have 5 items in this variable. So that is for the properties. But let me look for arrays. So let's look for arrays properties, the reference. I like showing up documentation W3 schools from W3 schools because it is easy to understand. Now this is what I'm looking for. If you click on it, it should open all these references for you. Now I will copy this link and share it on the group, and feel free to look at it at any time. So here I will drop it here. So okay, if you are working for JAMB, you are not going to be entering the name of the student manually yourself. Rather, JAMB will have a front-end website, and that front end is going to be linked to your back end. What you are doing is that anybody that registers on the front end, you write a code, your back end takes their name and saves on the database. So anybody that just registered, automatically it saves on the database, and you are naming that section. So you can name that section student for 2024. Now the automatically, as the register, their name will come inside this array. Automatically as they register, their name will come inside this array. And I will show you that. Does it mean to use console log? We want to test our code. Exactly. Console log is to test your code. If we want to check out anything we have written, we use console log to test the code. So I want to talk about all these properties. Now, if you add at, it returns the index element of that array. For example, console logging this here will tell us that we have different items at different indexes here. So if you console log student dot at and you pass in, no, not this, I mean at, and you pass in, for example, 0 or 1 or 2, anything. So you are trying to return the item at index 2. So if you refresh this, you see that Lucy is returned, and also Lucy here is at index 2. So that is what at will do for you. At will return an element at a particular index. Concat is going to join two arrays together. Concat is going to join two arrays together. Copy within every filter, find last, flat, swap. Now, some of these arrays, we're going to look at them, some of these array methods rather, we're going to look at them at an earlier stage, but let's look at push and pop. Those are the two most important things. For the person who was asking, if you are working for Jam, will you put it yourself? No, you will not. What you will do is write a JavaScript function like this. For example, if I console log my array here, you see that I have only 5 items and it ends at Martins. Let's assume I want to add something else. I can say I will call student array dot push. Now dot push means I want to add a new student. So if I put in the name of the student I want to add, for example, Kenneth, and save it. Now by the time I console log it again, student for 2024, and save it, what's happening here is I already have it console logged here. Now what I'm doing is I'm pushing Kenneth into the student for 2024 because Kenneth have registered. So I am pushing Kenneth into this array and I'm console logging the arrays again. So if I refresh my browser, you will see that initially the array was 5 without Kenneth. But by the time it ran on line 47, we have added Kenneth to the array. So this is how you add new student to the array. But note something, dot push is going to add it to the end of the array, meaning that will be the last person in the array. But if you want to add it to the beginning, you can do something like student dot on shift, and let's say we're adding Emmanuel. So if we're adding Emmanuel to the group, you notice that if I refresh it, initially it's 5 and now it is 7. Now this dot pop is adding Kenneth. Now dot push is adding Kenneth to the end, while on shift is adding Emmanuel to the beginning, like this. Now this is how you add a new name or a new item into an array. You use push we add it to the end, or you use on shift we add it to the end. Now you don't have to cram this. That is why you have this documentation. On shift is here. On shift adds new element to the beginning of an array and returns the new length. So on shift we add it to the beginning of the array. Then while here you have push adds new element to the end of an array and returns the new length of an array. So this is important that you don't cram anything. Even if you don't understand, you don't cram at all. There's documentation for you to look at any time. So I have this push and pop and it's working. Now the next thing is, let's assume a student leaves the school and you want to remove the name of that student. So we have 5 students. You want to remove the name of that student. Now for those who don't know, doing this is a comment for me. So doing this, JavaScript will not read these lines of code because they have been commented out. They are no longer codes, but they are comments. So the browser will not be interpreting comments. And that is why even though if I refresh this, I will not see anything because these are no longer codes, but they are comments now. And the next thing I want to do is if I want to remove an item from an array. Now looking at it here, the item ends with Martins and starts with David. So if I do something like this, student for 2024 dot pop. Now dot pop is going to remove an item. So if I save it and refresh, okay, I'm supposed to be console-logging the new array. Sorry, student for 2024. Yeah, so now I'm console-logging. Now initially, the value of the array has 5 values, 5 items, but by the time you call dot pop is going to remove the last item from the array. Dot pop has removed Martins from the array. Now the same thing for shift. So if I call student dot shift and save it, so what dot shift would do is it's going to remove David. Now it removed David from the beginning and dot pop removed Martins from the ending. So the same way push we add to the end, pop we remove from the end. On shift we add to the beginning, shift we remove from the end. Now these are just simple array method. If you don't understand it, you can still come here. This is pop. Pop removes the last item of an array and returns that element. So it's going to remove that item. Whereas shift, this is shift. Shift removes the first element of an array and returns that element. So what these are doing is this remove from the last and this removes from the end. Now the next thing you want to do is check. So you might want to check whether an array contains a particular student's name. For example, student 2024 dot includes. So you want to check if there is a name of a person called Abigail. So you are trying to check if this array includes a name called Abigail. And what you want to do is say, let's set it to be a variable. What is going to be returned? Let's set it to, you know what? Let's just console log everything. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to console log student dot includes Abigail. I want to see what will be returned when I ask if Abigail is included in the array. So if I save this, it returns false because Abigail is not included in the array. But if I add something like David and save it, if I refresh this, I'll see that David is returned true, that David is included in the array. How do you remove a particular student's name? Now, there are so many things to do here. I may not cover all of them, but this is slice. Select a part of an array and return the new array. So you can say something like this, student.slice. Now for slice, you say start at index 1 or index 0 and return 3 items. So here we are trying to slice, the array as you are trying to cut the array. And we are saying start at index 0 and return 3 items. So if you start here, it will return David, it will return Samson, and it will return Lucy. Now, Gabby and Martins will not be returned. So if I refresh this, so you see that it's returning 3 items because we said start at index 0 and return 3 items. Now we can say start at index 1 and return 3 items. What that means is that index 1 is Samson. So it will return Samson, it will return Lucy, it will return Gabby. But David and Martins will not be returned because we say start at index 1 and return 3 items. Now using this, you can slice out a particular thing from what is it called? Let me see. So there are other things you can use, but we're going to talk about reduce later. I will talk about that later after we learn a few things, and I'll talk about where for each, because that's like a higher array method. So there are other parts of array method that are called higher array method. I'm going to explain them also. So but this we're done. What I will do next is move on to objects. Are you serious now? So object in an array or in JavaScript. Now object in JavaScript is still the normal thing and that's when you are working on full stack. Now we're going to answer this your question when we go further, but for now your question is beyond the scope of this class. How can one use push to collect data from the front end? So it is beyond the scope of this class. For now we are doing the basics. So for the basics we are just going to keep them to this like this. So let's talk about object. Now, object is also used as a variable. We can declare a variable as an object. Now, an object is anything. In JavaScript, an object is anything. An object, a human being can be an object, a desk can be an object, school, the uniform, a dog, anything can be your object when it comes to JavaScript. And how do you declare an object? The same way you declare a variable, you start with const and you start with the name of the variable. You can call it a person, you can call it a dog, and you can call it a vehicle, you can call it anything. That's an object. The same way you declare a variable, but it's coming with, now there are two things. It's coming with curly braces. Now this is curly braces. Whenever you see curly braces, you know that you are about to declare an object, unlike when you see square brackets. So if you see square brackets, you know that you're about to declare an array. But for object, it's square, it's curly braces. That's the first thing. So the first thing for object is that it comes with curly braces. The next one is that it comes with key value pairs. Key value pairs. Now, what is key value pairs? For example, this is a vehicle object, and inside here, the vehicle is going to have a name, or let's say a brand. The brand is here. Now, the value is going to be Toyota. Now, the next one is going to be the color. The color of the vehicle is black. Now, the year of the vehicle is going to be maybe 2024. So what we call value, key value pair is this thing. This is the key, this is the value. This is the key, this is the value. This is the key, this is the value. So that is what we call key value pairs when it comes to objects. So objects come with curly braces, which is this, and it also comes with key and value pair. So you put the key here and you put the value here. You put the key here and you put the value here. You keep the key here and you put the value. Now the same thing goes for if you want to declare for a person. You put this, now you put the person's first name, and you say the person's first name is David. Now you put the person's last name, and you say the last name is Samson, or maybe however you put it. The next one, you say you put the person's age. The person's age is 12 or any number. Then you put is married. Are they married or not? Now you are the one that defines what the key will be. JavaScript will not tell you what the key will be. So you define what you want to put as the key. You can put something like this as the key, and you put the value to be something like this, and you put another key to be this, and you put the value to maybe be a number, however you want. So, but just know that if you are declaring an object will come in key and value pairs. You put the key, you put the value, you put the key, you put the value, you put the key, you put the value. What do we want to use an object for? Now, an object is the most important part of coding or in JavaScript. Number one, JavaScript is object-oriented, that is one. But going further, you will discover that you can't do anything without an object. For example, let's say you are working for JAM as their system administrator. You know that each student that is going to write an exam, you declare each student as an object, because each student will have a first name, each student will have a last name, each student will have state of origin, each student will have exam center, each student will have registration number, they will also have their gender, whether they're male or female. They are going to have so many things. Now that is why an object is defined. It's important because you can't define or describe a person or create a person variable in your database without other information. So for example, we want to declare a JAM student 1 here. JAM student 1. Now a typical JAM, the person will have a first name, will have a last name, will have an age. They are going to have a score, maybe their JAM score, and you put it to be 120. They're also going to have their state of origin, as in the state where they are from. I'm sorry, I didn't spell that well. Spell it well. Now, state of origin can be Lagos. Now, they're also going to have exam center where they wrote their exam. Exam center, you can put it as UPE, primary school, Abuja, anyone. And they're also going to have, they're going to have so many details. For example, they're going to have gender. You want to know whether they are male or female. And what else are they going to have? There are other things they might have. Now, this is for student number 1. So it is created as an object. You're also going to create this object for different students. You're going to create this for different students. So this is why an object is important in JavaScript. All variables may not appear. Now looking at this, you know that this is a string variable, this is a string variable, this is a number variable, this is a number variable. Now you can also put marital status there, or put something like is married to know whether they are married or not, and you can put this as false. So this here is a Boolean variable, a string variable, a string variable, and a string variable. So all of them put together becomes a student object, because with this object now you have more information about the student. So, and with this, we are going to be able to use so many things on object. For example, we can console log the whole object by adding the name of the object here. So if I save that and I come to my document and refresh, so I want to remove this console log. Where is it? Here. So if I do this now, you're going to see that object. It comes with curly braces. That is how you know it's an object. The next thing is it comes in key and value, key and value, key and value pairs. So that is how you know it's an object. Now, this is me console logging all the items in the object like this. But the next thing I can do is maybe the administrator wants to see only the name of the student, not all their information, only their first name. So if they want to see only their first name, what you can do is write the name of the object, student dot, and then you select the object that they want to see. For example, they want to see the first name, you select the first name, and if you save it and refresh, you should see only the first name. Now you can do the same thing for the last name. You just call dot on the object and you pass in the last name. Save it. So if you refresh this, you're going to be seeing only the last name. You can also see only their scores. Dot and you pick scores and save it. So if you refresh this, you see only their scores. Now somebody is going to be asking, why is this important? Now it is very, very important that you know how to pick out only one item from them, or maybe so many items from them, like that. Now I'm going to explain that, but before I go further, do you have any questions? If you have any question, please feel free to drop it now. If you have any question on arrays and objects, so that we can move further to something else. If you have questions on arrays and how to select object, please feel free to drop your questions now. Okay, that means we are good to go. So if you drop a thumbs up, it means we are good to go. Now, if you have any questions, just feel free to drop it in the questions and answer, so that I can also look at it and attend to it. Now, that is an object. Now, the beautiful part of this thing is we are going to have, it's very possible that we can combine array and object together. That is the extent we are going to, where we can combine arrays and objects together. No, you cannot create an object with keys and not add value. Every object must have key and the value, a key and the value. You can't create an object with a key and not add the value. Now, gender is not a boolean. A boolean is a variable that has only two values. It can either be false or true. There is no in between. Gender male here is a string, because here you add female, or you can add other, whatever you want to add. But a boolean is a variable that has either true or false as the value. There is no in between, like that. Console log is used to actually check our codes. All of these things we are seeing, we are using console to be able to visualize them and to see that our code is running very well. Here I am trying to show only the score. How would I know that only the score is coming out if I don't use console log? So console log gives you that privilege to actually see what your code is doing. For example, if I have const, if I say const A is equal to 1, and then I say const B is equal to 2, and then I say const C is equal to A plus B, how would I know? Now let me say I'm using D here. So I say const A is equal to A plus D. Now if I save this, I'm not going to see what is happening or what is going on. Now I don't know what the value of C is. How do I know the value of C without console logging them? So console log will help you to see what is going on in the code or how your code is running. That is why console log is important. Now if I add C inside console log and save it, and go ahead to refresh this browser, you see I have 3 here, and 3 is coming from index.js line 87. So this is my index.js, and this is line 87. So the value of C is equal to 3 because D is 1 and B is 2. So 1 plus 2 is equal to 3. That is why I have 3 here. JavaScript works with internet. Now, I don't know what that means, but you can actually visualize your codes without internet. You can use your browser without internet. Now, the JavaScript does not need internet, but if you deploy your project online, then it will require internet. But right now, you've not deployed any project. You're still running on your system. You do not require, it doesn't require any internet at all. You can use Chrome, you can use Edge, you can use Brave, any browser you want to use, you can use it with JavaScript like that. So that is said, the next thing I want to look at, so the next thing I will want to look at is the different things in JavaScript. Now, I talked about having arrays of objects, but I won't do that. So let's look at something else. I'll remove this. I'll come back to objects later, but that will be possibly when you are now a little grounded in arrays. Then we can talk about object. Now let's create an array. We have this array here. I will cut this array. Ctrl X and save that. So if I cut that array and put it here, so I have an array here. How do I remove lines of code from the list? Now, I don't understand what you mean to remove lines of code from the list, and I don't know why. I don't know exactly. Yeah, it works. It works with the internet like that. Now, I don't know why you'd want to remove the lines of code from the list, but I don't know. I don't know what it means. If your console log is not displaying anything, there are two things involved. It is either you have not linked your JavaScript here, your JavaScript is not linked to your HTML, or the console log, something is wrong with the console log. So try typing in console log and console log something like a string, or console log something like a number to see if it's going to work, because mine is working. So but first make sure that you have linked your JavaScript here. So the next thing I want to talk about is loops in an array, looping in an array. Loops in an array. Now JavaScript is simple, it's very easy. Now what you need to do is that after the class, going forward, I will do videos and I will upload to you. Then you look at the videos. If you have questions, you ask me. I'll also do new videos and also upload for you to see. So but coming to class, prepare your mind with anything you have encountered. So that way when you come to class, I can explain and also clarify anything you don't understand. So that is how you learn JavaScript, and you learn very well. Let it not be that the first time you are hearing it or you are seeing it is when I am teaching it. No, if you go by that way, you will not understand JavaScript. So try these things on your own. Not after today's class, you will wait until the next class before you open JavaScript again. That way you will not understand JavaScript at all. You try it on your own. If you have any challenges, you drop it on the platform. In our next class, we address it. That way you pass that challenge and move on to the next thing. So if your console, like I explained, if your console is not opening, If this is happening, just make sure that you've actually linked your JavaScript very well and refresh your page. That will solve the issue. So I want to talk about loop. Looping is, for example, most of us use music player, and most times we put our music player on repeat. So that repeat is what we call looping. Now you can ask the music player to repeat all the music. That is repeating all the music. Or you can ask the music player to repeat only one particular type of song, only one. So that is also looping. Looping is when you want to do something over and over again. For example, there is something called a for loop and a while loop. So I will talk about a while loop and I will talk about a for loop. Or actually, let me go with the for loop. Let me go with both. So I will just explain the while loop briefly and then go to the for loop. Now, if you want to declare a loop, there are few things that must be known. Number one is when to start. You tell the loop where it should start. The second thing is when or where to stop. When to stop. So the second thing is you tell the loop where you want it to stop or when you want it to stop. The second thing is increment the variable you are using. Increment variable that you are using. So these are the three things that controls a loop. You tell the loop when to start, you tell it when to stop, and tell it to increment the value. For example, I can declare const A, or maybe not A, const X, or maybe not X. It can be anything, TT, or maybe not T. You can declare David, or maybe not David, whatever you want to declare. So I can declare score is equal to 0. So my score is 0. And I want to use a while loop. So I will write something like while score is maybe less than 10. So what I'm trying to write here is that I have a while loop here. So my while loop has brackets, that is parentheses, and it has curly braces like this. So this is how we write a while loop. We write the keyword while and then bracket, that is parentheses, and then square bracket. So inside the parentheses is where you write your condition when to stop. Here you are saying it should start when the value of score is 0. So that is what this thing means here. So this is when to start at 0. Here we can say stop at when score is less than 5. Now it is not going to stop if score is not less than 5. So we're asking it to stop when score is less than 5. And the next thing is here we use what you want to do. What I want to do is I want to console log good afternoon. And then the third one is to increment the value. So increment the value means I will say score plus plus. Now, I know you don't understand what plus plus means, but let me explain. So I will comment this out. And I'll come here and say const B is equal to 1. So I have B to be 1. If I come here and say B plus plus, and then console log what B is, and save it. Now this plus plus adds 1 to whatever the value of B is. So if I refresh, it says constant. Okay, the reason why I'm getting this error uncaught type error, assignment to constant variable. I created the variable with const, and like I said, with const the value cannot change. You use let when you know that the value will change. That is when you use let. So if I save this and refresh, you see that the value is now 2. Where is 22 coming from here? So the value of B is equal to 2 because of plus plus. Now if I go ahead and do another B plus plus and save it, if I refresh, I have B to be 3. If I go ahead and do another B plus plus and save it, I will have B to be 4. So this plus plus adds 1 every time to whatever the value of B is. But if I have 5 here and I say minus minus, minus minus, minus minus. So drop what you think will be the answer when I console log this. Drop the answer on the Telegram group. What you think will be the answer when I have B is equal to 5 and B minus minus, B minus minus, and another B minus minus. What do you think will be the value? Christopher said 2, Kenneth said 4. I'm going with minus minus this time. So drop what you think will be the value of B with minus minus, minus minus, minus minus. So if I save this and come back to the browser and refresh, the value of B is 2 minus minus. So minus minus removes 1 every time from the value, while plus plus we add 1 every time to the value. So this is how we explain the loop. For example, if I come back to my loop here and say this is my loop, now instead of const I will use let. So what is going on is that initially the value of score is 0. So it will check, is 0 less than 5? Yes, 0 is less than 5. It will run this console log and then come here and increase 0 to 1. Then come back here again and check, is 1 less than 5? Yes, 1 is less than 5. It will run this console log and then come here, increase 1 to 2. Then it will check again, is 2 less than 5? Yes, 2 is less than 5. No, actually this is less than, not greater than. We're doing with less than. Sorry, that was just a mistake. So we say, is 2 less than 5? Yes, 2 is less than 5. It will run this again until it increases score to 5, and then it will check, is 5 less than 5? No, 5 is not less than 5. It will stop running the loop. So if I save this and refresh, you see that it printed good afternoon 5 times. So meaning that it printed it at 0, printed it at 1, printed it at 2, printed it at 3, and printed it at 4. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That is why you see that it printed good afternoon 5 times, because we said start at 0. But if we say start at 3, how many times do you think it will print this good afternoon? When we say start at 3, drop the number on the platform. How many times do you think it will print out the console log good afternoon if we say it should start at 3? Christopher said 2, Kenneth said 2, and 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Now, because we say start at 3 and stop when score is less than 5, I will save this and then check my console log again. Actually, it printed it 2 times. So like I said, a loop is controlled with when to start, when to stop, and increment the value. So we are saying when to start, start at 3. When to stop, stop when the value is less than 5. and then increment the value with 1 every time. Increment the value with 1 every time. This is a while loop. Another thing is a for loop. So I'll comment this out. Now a for loop is the same thing. The two of them are the same thing. When you are doing like this, so we have a for loop like this. A for loop and a while loop will do the same thing for you if you want to use it. So you can use them anytime you want. You may not, it's not compulsory that you use both of them, but you can use one. So inside this bracket is where you put your conditions, and inside these curly braces is where you put what you want to do. Now the conditions is when to start. The first one is when to start. We can say let y be equal to 0. So we are saying start at 0. That is when to start. Then we can go ahead to say y is less than 10. So stop when y is less than 10. That is when to stop. And then we can also add y plus plus like this. So for a for loop, the three conditions are in the same line. Who is unmuted? What we say increment it by 2. Now what that means is instead of saying score, instead of saying score plus plus, which increases by 1, you will say plus equal 2 like this. So plus equal to, it means you are adding 2 to the value every time. So it will be skipping by 2. It will be skipping by 2. If it's going to skip by 2, you already know how many times it will print it. So, but initially it is good that you go with plus plus so that it runs all the loop one by one. Yeah, thank you, Lawal. I made a mistake there. So you can go with this, but it is important that you go with plus plus so that it increases by 2. So for a for loop is straightforward. You have everything in one line. You have when to start at 0. When to stop when the value of, oh, I'm using greater than again. Sorry. Thank you. I forgot. So stop at when y is less than 0, and also increment the value of y plus plus. Now if you do that, console log for me, maybe good evening. So looking at this loop, how many times do you think this loop is going to run? Drop it on the Telegram channel. Looking at the for loop, start at 0, stop when y is less than 0, and then increment the value of y by 1 every time. When do you think, how many times do you think this array will run? Somebody says 5 times, 10 times. How many times will this for loop print good evening? How many times will it print good evening? If it starts at 0, somebody says 4. Is it going to print it 4 times? Let's see. So if I save it and come here and refresh, I have good evening 10 times. So that means if y is 0, it will check, is 0 less than 10? Yes, it will print this thing, and then increment 0 to 1. Then it will check again, is 1 less than 10? Yes, it is. It will print this thing again, and then increment 1 to 2. So that means it will print it at 0, print it at 1, print it at 2, print it at 3, print it at 4, print it at 5, print it at 6, print it at 7, print at 8, and print at 9. So all of these values are all less than 10. So since they are all less than 10, it means this loop is going to run for each of these values. It's going to run for each of these values. So if you count these values, there are 10 values here. It means it will run 10 times. The reason why it will not run at 10 is because 10 is not less than 10. So that is where it will stop. It will stop at 9. This is the reason why the loop is running 10 times. So I will remove this. And do you have any question on looping? Do you have any question on looping? Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is this thing here. Now we can use a loop to print out the names of everybody in an array. Now say we have an array like this, and we are asked to print these names, all of them individually, using a loop. Now we can use a while loop, you can use a for loop, anyone you want, but I can use a while loop here, and I can say a for loop rather, for when let I be equal to 0. So start at 0. That means start at index 0. That's what 0 means. Start at 0. Now stop at when how many items are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So stop at when I is less than 5. That's when to stop. And then increment I plus plus. So what I want to do is console log student.for like this. So I want to print out everything. I want to print out everything in this student for 24 or 2024. So if I save it like this, I refresh my browser, you will see it printed everything in the array 5 times. But that's not what I want. I don't want it to print it 5 times. Rather, I want it to print them individually. So to do that, exactly, we're going to check for when we don't know how many items and the array. We'll do that. So, but for now, we want to say, knowing that the value of I is going to increase from 0 to maybe 4 or 5. What we want to do is, using that number as our index, we can say print at the index I. Okay, I think I did not explain this part. Let me explain it now. So before I use the loop, I can print a particular item at an index. So if I say student this and I add square bracket 0, now this means I want to print out the item at index 0 inside this array. So if I save it, I will see David at index 0. Now if I change that to maybe to be 1 and save it and refresh this, I will see Samson at index 1. So if I remove this and put 2 and save it, which array am I looking at? And refresh it, I'll see Lucy at index 2. Now if I remove this and put maybe 3 and save it, I'll see Gabby at index 4. So this is how you print out a particular item using the index of that item. How do you know the index of the item? Now you do not know, but looking at this, if you console log the whole array, you will see the index of each item. David is at 0, Samson at 1, Lucy at 2. So if we are going by that format, we can say print for us using the index of I, since we know that I will go from 0 to 4. So if I save this and refresh, I'll have it printing out all of the items here. Now, the question is, what if we don't know how many items are in the array? Because currently we have to just count it 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That way we know to use 5 here. What if we don't know how many items? Or what if we go ahead and add another item here? Possibly JJJ or JJ, anyone, and save it. Now, is it going to print JJJ? Now, you see it's not printing JJJ because we say stop when it is less than 5. Now, if we go ahead and add another thing, maybe KK, and save it, if you refresh this, you see it is not printing KK because we say stop at 5. So it is definitely going to stop at 5. But if you want to overcome that, instead of using a particular number, you use the length of the array by typing student 2024.length. So what we are saying is stop at when I is less than the length of the array. This is what it means. So if I save it and refresh, you see it's printing all of them. Now if I go ahead and add another item here, and save it, if I refresh, you see it's still printing out Now even if it's more than 1000, it will print out all of them because we are using the length of the array as when it should stop. So that is what you can do when you don't know how many items are in the array. You use the length of the array to tell it when to stop. Stop at the length of the array. So the array is student 2024 dot length. That is where it will stop. So do we have any questions so far? Do you have any questions so far on loops? Loops, 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 and loops. Any question? No question. So drop a thumbs up if I should continue. I'll continue. And also, I don't know if I should drop this my code for you on GitHub so that you can have access to what I am writing here. If I'm supposed to drop that for you on GitHub, you can drop a comment for me, and after the class, I will drop this file on GitHub so that you can have access to them. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is if or else statements or conditionals. We call them conditionals, however you want to call it. So if or else statement. Now, what are the instances for when a loop can be used? Now, we're going to treat that in proper in our next class. But for now, you can use looping. For example, let's say you are working for JAMB. I'm using JAMB a lot. Let's say you are working for JAMB and everybody in JAMB, not everybody, students failed a lot. Then the person who's in charge of JAMB board will call you as a developer. Please, can you add 10 marks across to everybody to boost their score? Now, you are not going to go individually and add 10 marks. What you will do is loop through every name in the database and add 10 to their score. That is when you can use looping. Now, another thing is they might ask you, print out all the names of everybody from who their state of origin is River State. You can loop through the whole database and print only those that are state of origin is database. So there are so many instances that you can use a loop, but in our next class, or maybe that's tomorrow, we should be able to reach that part. So, but for now, let's just stick to what we're doing, and I'm going to explain that later. Now, if or else statement. Now, if or else statement is more like you doing something when a particular condition is met. If that condition is not met, it will not do it, or it will do something else. For example, for those of us that play ball, you can say, I want to go and play ball with Josh or Josh. So I'm supposed to go and play ball with Josh. But if I get to Josh's house and his mother refused to allow him to go and play ball, that means I will not play ball. That's the first condition. His mother has to allow him to go and play ball. Now, the second condition is if I get to Josh's houses and his mother allowed him and it is not raining. Now, if it is not raining, then we can play ball. But if it is raining, then we cannot play ball. That is a second condition. So you can have multiple conditions to check. So you can have multiple conditions to check when something is going to happen. For example, I can say const score is equal to 5. Now, if score is greater than 5, console log welcome. So looking at this code, do you think it is going to print welcome here? Looking at, I'm saying let the score be 5. And here I'm saying if the score is greater than 5, print out welcome. Will it print it? Somebody said no. No, 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 no. So let's check. Now if I save this, I have saved it and refresh. It is not printing it. Now it is not printing it because the condition says that the value of score must be greater than 5 before you print this thing. But if I change it to something like 7, or maybe not 7, let's keep it at 5, and I come here, I put 3. Do you think it's going to print out welcome? Looking at this code, do you think it's going to print out welcome? Drop it on the group. It's going to print out welcome. Yes, it will. So let me save it and refresh. So I will save this and refresh. It's printing out welcome because the condition says the value of score must be greater than 3 before you print out this. So this is what if or else statement is. If you are working for JAMB and they say add 5 marks to everybody, or maybe add 10 marks to everybody, but for only those that their score is less than maybe 49. So if your score is less than 49, because 49 is failed, so if they add 1 mark to you, it becomes 50. You have passed. So you can say here, if your score is less than 49, or maybe less than 50, we want to here, we want to say let's score +1 or maybe +10 or whatever score they want to add to you, and then you console log what the value of score is here. So what we are saying is we are assigning a value to score, and we are checking is the score of this student, is it less than 50? If it is less than 50, take that score and add 10 to it and then console log it. So looking at this, do you think what will be the value of score that will be printed? Looking at this code, what do you think will be the value of score that will be printed? Drop it on the platform. What do you think will be the value of score that will be printed? The value of score initially is 5. Now we are checking, is the value less than 50? If it is less than 50, add 10 to it and console log it. 15, 15, 15, 50, 60, and so on, 55, so on. So if I save this and refresh, I have it as what? Okay, that's because I'm using const. Rather, it has to be let, because initially you can't update the value. So if I refresh this, I still have 5 because okay, I have to do plus equals and save. Sorry, you have to do plus equals. Yeah, it's 15. So plus equals means I'm adding 5 to it, and 10 rather to it. But if I do something like maybe 65, let's go with 65. Now, what do you think will be printed as the value of score? What do you think will be printed as the value of score? 65, 65. Now, the question says that the value of score must be less than 10. Must be less than 50 before the whole of this if statement will run. So if it is not less than 50, this if statement will not run. Now, if the if statement will not run, will it console log? If the if statement will not run, will it console log? So let's save this and see. So if I refresh, it's not console logging, but the value of score remains 65. So that's like we've gone ahead, and it's good to know that you are following. So what I want to do is reduce it again to 5 and then introduce something else like this and say good afternoon. And then here I say else, console log, good evening. So this is an example of if or else statement. So here we have a condition. We are saying if the value of score is less than 10, then print good afternoon. Else, just go ahead and print good evening. So this is if or else. We are saying if the condition is true and it is being met, then go ahead and console log good afternoon. But if the condition is not met, automatically go and print good evening. That is what this else is. So this else here will be printed or will run when this condition is not true. So but if this condition is true, this one will run. Otherwise, it will run this. It's more like saying go to a supermarket and buy me Coke. If you reach there and the price for Coke is more than 50 naira, buy pure water and come back. That is what this if or else statement means. So when you reach the supermarket and you ask them for the price of Coke and they say Coke is 60 naira, automatically you buy pure water and come back, because that is what this condition means. The condition they gave you, go to supermarket, check and buy me Coke. But if the price of Coke is more than 50 naira, buy pure water and come back. So here we're saying go and print this console log. But if the value of the console log is not only less than 10, only when the value of score is less than 10, that is the only time you print this. If it's not, just print good evening and come back. So if I save this, what do you think it will print? Will it print the first one or the second one? Will it print the first one or the second one? Somebody says good afternoon. Somebody says first. The condition says the score, the value of score is 5. And we are saying if the score is less than 10, print good afternoon. But if it's not, just print good evening. So if I save this and refresh, I have good afternoon. And it's printing good afternoon because 5 is less than 10. That's what it's doing. If or else statement. Now the next thing we can do is something like this. So I'll leave this one because I will be sharing the code with you, and then move over to something else. An if or else statement, like here now. So I can say for example, what do I want to put? I can say let is married be equal to false. Then come here and see if is married is double equal to true, console log he is married. Else console log what's the next one? He is not. So looking at this is not a single equal to. This is double equal to. So when it comes to if or else, you can use double equals or triple equals. I will explain the difference later, but this is double equal and single equal. The question here is if the value of is married is equal to true, print this one, else print this one. So drop on the comment section what it will print. Drop on the comment section what it will print. Good, he is not married. That's good. He's not. Exactly. Because the value of is married here is false, and we are checking if it is equal to true for this to run. But if it is not equal to true, then this will run. That's all. So the next thing I want to talk about is what sometimes you can have more than one if statement. For example, if let me declare a variable here. You know what? I'll just skip something here. I'll say let C be equal to 5, and then let D be equal to. Now bear with me, we're going a little deeper into JavaScript. It's very simple if you look at it very well, but just bear with me. Now if C is less than or equal to 5, let's say 10. If C is less than or equal to 10, console log first. Else, if C is less than, let's see, or else if C is less than or equal to 20, console log second. Sorry, I forgot to put C here. Else, if C is less than, and let me see, is less than or equal to 30. I'm trying to put something here, CLG pod, otherwise just print false. So here, now we have a condition like this. Now this is us going deeper into JavaScript, but if you look at it, you understand what is going on. You understand. So what I want to now do is we can have multiple ifs. Number one, we have multiple if statements here. So this one is an if statement, this one is an if statement, this one is an if statement. But now we have two variables. So here we can say if this is true and this is true, but we can say if it is greater than 10, sorry, let me not go there. So looking at this now, we know that we are checking for when C. No, the S is not going to run like that. Sorry, I forgot. I was just too fast. I think my head is faster than. Yeah, so it will not run like that. So, but before I bring in this one, this is me showing you that you can have else and then have if again. You can have else and then have if again. Then before you have the final default else, where if this one is not true, this one is not true, this one is not true, by default, this one will run like that. So this is when you have different ifs. You have 2, 3, 4 ifs. You can have so many if statements like that. Now, but before I bring this one, I want to talk about logical and logical or. And logical or, which is double ampersand, and or, which is the pipe, double pipe. Oh no, 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 no. That's not what I intended to do. I intended to write like this. So logical and logical or. For example, I have D here and D here. So I can say if C is less than 5 and D is less than 7, console log first, else console log second. Now this means that when you use and, it is more like saying if I want to play ball with Josh, 2 conditions must be met. His mother must allow him to play, and secondly, it must not be raining. So that is the 2 conditions that must be met. So here we are saying that for this first to run, C must be less than 5 and D must be less than 7. This and here means that the 2 sides of this equation must be met before this will run. If you use and, it means that the 2 of them must be met. So this and this must be true. This and this must be true. But if you go with or you are saying one side must be true. If this side is true, it will not consider this side because you are saying this or this. This or this. So if this side is false, then it will consider this. If this is true, then it will run. So when you use or for your conditions, you are checking only one of these has to be true. Only one has to be true. But if you use double and, it means the 2 of them must be true. The 2 of them must be true. So looking at this now, what do you think it will print Will it print first or will it print second when I'm using logical AND? Looking at this, drop it on the group. Will it print first or will it print second? We said the first one will only run when C is less than 5 and D is less than 7. So the two of them must be true. C must be less than 5 and D must also be less than 7. So some people say it will print out first, some say second. So let's check that out. Now, when you use AND, logical AND, these two conditions must be true. The two conditions must be true. So if I save this and refresh, now it is printing out second. Why is it printing out second? Because the first thing here, it is checking the value of C. The value of C is 5. So it is going to check, is 5 less than 5? No. The moment one condition fails when you are using AND, all the condition has failed. Because AND says the two conditions must be met. But when you are using OR, then only one condition has to be met. So if I save this now and check again, I have first, because although this condition is false, this condition is true. That is what OR does. So if you ask somebody, you are only going to be allowed into the hall if you have your driver's license and your NIN. So if the person comes with only driver's license, the person will be allowed in, because you said you are going to be allowed in if you have a driver's license or your NIN. So you are not asking for the two. You are asking for only one. That is what OR does. So if you have your driver's license, you'll be allowed in. But if you don't have driver's license and you have NIN, it will also allow you in. The same thing with AND. Now, if you go with AND and you say you will be allowed in if you have your driver's license and your NIN. So if you come with only one, then you will not be allowed in, because the condition says you will be allowed in when you have driver's license and you also have NIN. So that is the difference between the logical and double and the logical or double pipe. So the logical or allows for one, the logical and allows for two. So if that is allowed, now I want to write this, I will not do it. I will just write it and you tell me what the answer would be. So this is for when C So I'll just write this and I will not do it. Then you just tell me the answer. So I have C here. So what I want to do is, if C is less than 10, do this. And C is greater than 10 and less than, or C is less than 20. Or C is greater than 20 and C is less than 30. Now I'm not going to do this. You just look at it and drop what it will print. Whether you're correct, whether you're not correct, that's up to you. So let's see what it will print, and then we'll be done with that and move to the next thing. So what do you think it will print? Fourth, first. Now the value of C, let me show you what the value of C is. The value of C is 5. The value of C is 5. Why did I go with 5? You know what? I will not go with 5. Let me go with something better, like 25. Yes, the value of C is 25. So let's see, just recalculate, recheck it. What do you think it will print? Which line will it print? We are checking the first line is the value of C has to be less than or equal to 10. The second line, the value of C has to be greater than 10 and it has to be less than or equal to 20. In the third line, the value of C has to be greater than 20 and it has to be less than or equal to 30. Else, it should just go ahead and print the else, the final one. So, is that all? Is that all? Look at it very well. What do you think it will print? It will print third and fourth. It will print first and third. The value of C is 25. The value of C is 25. So I will save this and then check again. Now it's printing out third. And the reason why it's printing out third is because the value of C, which is 25, is greater than 20. And also it is less than 30. So that is why it is printing out third, because the value of C is greater than 20, but it is less than 30. So that is the answer. We have it being less than 30. Now this is double. We're doing less than or equal to 30. So it is not equal to 30, but it is less than 30. So that is what this is doing. Here, it is not equal to 25 and is also not less than 25. Here, it is not equal to 10 and is also not less than 10. The value is 25. So 25 is greater than 20 and it is less than 30. Okay, initially the value was 5 here. So which one do you think will run now? Looking at the value being 5. Initially the value was 5. Which one do you think it will run now? Fourth. Why do you think it will be fourth? Because here it says that the value of C has to be less than 10 or equal to 10. We are checking that the value of C has to be less than 10 or equal to 10. So if I save this and refresh, I have it to be first. So that's all. Now let's look at the last thing and we call it a day. Or maybe, what do we still have time? Yeah, we still have time. Just looking at the last thing and we call it a day. Now, for those who have not done their assignment, I have a list of their assignments for those who have submitted. And I want to believe that those who have not submitted, it is because they don't know what the assignment is about and they don't know how to write a function. The next part we want to enter into is the function, the part of the assignment. Although I will not do the assignment, but I am going to explain what a function is and how to write a function. The assignment was for you to write a function, as in write 3 different functions. Okay, I need to plug my system, so just give me a minute. Let me plug my system before it trips off. Okay, just a minute. Okay, we're back. So if you can hear me, please drop a thumbs up if you can hear me. If you can still hear me, please drop a thumbs up so that we'll continue. Now I know that it's thank you. I know that it is too much, but like I said before, as a backend developer, a lot depends on you. And also, if you are very good, you put in your time and you understand the backend project, the rate, there are a lot of jobs out there for backend developers, and it is way too much. For example, if you ask a plumber or maybe you ask an electrician to come to your house, I don't know how many of you have hired an electrician before. An electrician is like a backend developer, a backend engineer. You will not know what he is doing or how he's doing it. Now, the electrician might decide to climb up on the ceiling and remain there for the whole of the day and come back and tell you that the work is not done, that he will come back again tomorrow and complete the work. You are not going to argue with him. He might climb the ceiling there and just be moving up and down. So that is what the backend is. For backend, a lot depends on you, and most people are not interested to know what is going on in the backend. So most of the times, your backend classes might be longer, but if you are patient enough, if you understand it, put in time, and you get it, I promise you, you will not lack anything from it. Now somebody was telling me that he has a class today, but I don't think, maybe he was in class. So somebody was telling me he had a class today, and some other persons were telling me his laptop had issues. Now I understand that while you are learning, the first time you are learning, a lot can go wrong. A lot, both finances, both power, both your health, and so many things. Now, the day I was handling your Sunday class, I was actually shivering on that day. I was really sick, but you didn't get to notice because I'm already used to it. A lot of things depending on you. Things might not be going as you planned, but you have to be determined that this is what I want to do. Nobody comes out as a good backend developer and does not have a job. That is certain. You can't come out as a good backend developer and you don't have a job. As it stands currently, I was trying to explain to you in the last class that some even the companies we have in Nigeria do not have enough backend developers. On top of it, you have startups abroad who cannot afford the developers that are already living there. So they can't afford that. I for one, I have an experience. I've had most of my friends are in Dubai and most are in so many other countries. Now I've had some startups from Dubai approach me. Now the reason is because people who are in Dubai they are developers, they have a lot of expenses to make. So you can't pay them small money. So, but they can approach developers who are in Nigeria and they'll pay them small money. So the offer for me was to accept small money and work for them from Nigeria, or they would double the money and then I'll come over to Dubai as a first timer. Now looking at it, I had to ask my friends, is the money that they pay, the money they're paying me, is it enough to actually stabilize me in Dubai? They said that money is too small. So the expenses there is too small. Now this means that the developers who are in Nigeria are getting double opportunities from startups who are in Nigeria and also startups who are outside Nigeria, because looking at the current dollar rate, they know that they can just pay you a small thing and it will be big money. So do not see your time as, oh, this class is too boring. Oh, there's a lot to put into it. Oh, I have tests. I don't have time. Oh, I have a job. I don't have time. Oh, now, before I had to move into backend, I was a teacher. I used to teach. I teach chemistry, physics, and maths, three of them. I used to teach the three of them until one day I decided, you know what, I'm not teaching chemistry again. I want to move into software development full time. Now, it was not easy. I'm not saying you should do that because it was not easy. But if you know that it is exactly what you want to do, and I'm sure you, there's a lot of good that can come from it. So don't look at it as a time wasted or looking at it as putting too much resources in it. Now, that I've handled a class before, and what I told my student was, before you start the class, look at the resources that will be needed, everything you will need to finish the program. Gather the whole resources, the money for data, the money for light, everything, put it up front. Now, when you have settled everything and you are sure that you will follow the training from the beginning to the end. Now, if you are very, 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 very broke, you can start looking for jobs immediately. Now, the reason why you can look for jobs immediately is because along the line of your project, your class, you and I will be working on projects. So if you already have a job, you can bring in your job as a project and we work on it together as a project. And that's it. So for those who see that I want to be a software developer like that, and they're putting everything into it, they can get a job. And while we are on the project, while we are still in class, we start up with their project, and you'll be delivering your project while you are still learning like that. But it will require, I do demand a lot from you. So if you're putting in your time, don't see it as a waste, or don't see that as being too much. So that being said, drop that aside. So like I said, the assignment, some person did not submit JavaScript. Now, it's understandable. It's possible that it's the first time that you are seeing JavaScript, so you don't understand JavaScript. So the phase I'm about to enter now is what relates to the assignment, functions. We want to talk about functions in JavaScript. The assignment was for you to write 3 functions, 3 different functions. Now, the first one is write a function that will calculate the area of a circle. I think the area of a circle is 2 pi r. I think so. No, I don't know. I take in the length and the width. The length and the width. Okay, it says the length and the width of a rectangle. Okay, for rectangle. So all you need to do is find out what is the formula for calculating the length of a rectangle, the area of a rectangle. So formula for area of rectangle. Is a rectangle here? No, rectangle like this. And the formula for rectangle is the length times the width. That is all we're asking you. So write a function that will calculate the length times the width. Now, I'm sure I've explained this symbol in our last class. This is multiplication. So you create 2 variables, which is, it says the function should accept the length and accept the width. Multiply the 2 of them together and return the area. That is the first function. The second function, you should call it reverse string. It should accept any strings. Now, you know that we've been able to declare strings here as variable. This is a string. So what the function should do is take this string and reverse it. Now, although I don't want to give you the answer, but if you check here and you see string, yeah, I'm after that string properties or string methods, reference W3 schools. You should be able to see the, no, not Python, JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript string methods. I want to see the reference. I think I saw it in the last class. Let's check again. For string, JavaScript string reference, JavaScript string method reference. Which one? Let me go with this one. I'm just trying to show you exactly. So this is a string method. These are string methods. I think the method you want to call is the reverse. I think it should be here, reverse. So I think this is now complete. It should be the reverse. But even if you don't understand it, you can actually search for it on Google and you find it. So the third function is to write a function that takes any number and returns true if the number is even. So, but I've tried to explain. Somebody was saying she doesn't understand the assignment. So I think I've explained what the assignment is. The assignment, you are expected to write 3 functions. Now, I know you don't understand functions. I want to explain to you what a function is right now. So let's go. What is a function? A function in JavaScript is like a robot. For example, if you have a robot and that robot is supposed to clean shoe anytime you call its name. So it means that thank you, Lawal. I forgot that. So if you have a robot that is meant to clean shoe, it means that anytime you call that robot, the robot will come and clean shoe. That is what a function is. So you declare a robot and you tell the robot what to do. Anytime you call the robot, it will come and do that thing that you ask it to do. For example, a robot that is going to print good morning. Anytime you call that robot, it is always going to come and print good morning. So how do you write a function? You start with the keyword function and you write the name of the function because you have to call that robot by its name. So the name can be anything, then bracket and parentheses. So this is how you declare a function like this. So the function keyword, then the name of the function. You can call it anything. You can call it X, Y, Z, W, anything you want to call it. But just know that after the keyword function, the next thing that comes in is the name of the function. The same way we name strings. Like this. And then inside here is what you put what you want to do. For example, I want to console log first. So if I save this, now this function is not going to run because according to my explanation of what a function is like a robot that anytime you call the name of that robot, it is going to do exactly what you ask it to do. So currently we have declared the robot, but we have not called the robot. That is why it is not doing anything even after I refresh, because I have called the robot, I've declared the robot, but I have not called it. So I want to call it by its name of function, and invoke it with parentheses. Now I am invoking it with this because it is a robot. If I don't put this, it will not do anything. So I save it now and I refresh it, it will print first. If I come again and call that robot again and save it, now you see it will print first 2 times. Now if I call the robot again and save it, it will print it 3 times. So a function is like a robot that will do something for you. You will be the one to create the robot and you will tell the robot what you want it to be doing anytime you call it. So if you call it, it will come and do that thing that you called it. So here we called it 3 times, and that is why it is printing first 3 times, because we said the robot has to print 3. So what I can do is say const. I can say the robot const A is equal to 1 plus 1 or 1 plus 2, and then console log the value of A. So this robot now, I have declared it. The job of this robot is to add 1 and 2 together and print it out every time. It will add 1 and 2 together and print it out. It will add 1 and 2 together and print it out. So if I save this and refresh, it is not doing anything even after I refresh because I have not called it. So I must call it. Then it will know that it has been called to do what I want it to do. So if I say name of function and call it. So if I save this now, it is going to print out 3 like that. Now if I call it again and again, it's going to print out 3 times because I called it 3 times. So if I still call it more, it's going to print 3 times like this. So this is me defining a robot. Now most times I can say that I want that value or that variable to accept. No, let me leave this one so that I don't confuse you. I'll keep this one. I'll come again and declare another robot function, and then I'll call this XYZ as in function, and then call this and put like this. Okay, so now I have a function, and the name of my function is XYZ. And what this function will do is, this function is going to be accepting a variable called A. Anytime you call this function, you must pass in a variable. This is what it means. Now, notice that here we are not passing in any variable because the variables are defined here. So I can come in here and say const B is equal to 1 plus A. Then console log B. So looking at this function, what the function does is, when I call the name, I must pass in A, which is, I must pass in what the value of A is. Now it will take the value of A and add it to 1 and say that's the value of B. Then it will console log B. So if I come here and say X, Y, Z, and then I pass in 10, what do you think it will print? Put it down on the group. Looking at XYZ, I have called XYZ. What do you think it will print? What do you think XYZ will print? And also, will it print? What do you think it will print? It will print 11. Okay. Any other person, what do you think XYZ will print? What do you think XYZ will print? 11, 11, 11. Now, let me save it and refresh. It's printing out 11. Now, the reason why it is printing out 11 is because I told it initially that whenever I call you, now me adding this A here, notice that I did not add anything here. So it is not expecting anything. But the moment you add something here, it means it's going to take in a value. This thing here means expect a value. So when you get the value, add that value to 1 and then console log it. Now that is 1. Now we can do another one. I can say something like a function. Function ff is a function like this. And what it does is, this time it will accept 3 values, A, B, and C. So it should accept 3 values. What do I want you to do? You define const D is equal to A plus B times C, and then console log D. Now I know we're not this is maths, but what this means is that this function knows that whenever you call it, you must pass in 3 values. So if you are passing in 3 values, you would use those values and do an arithmetic here. So add A plus B multiply C, and then assign the value to D and console log what the value is. So if you come here and call FF, then you must pass in 3 values, 2, 4, and 6. You can call it again, FF, and pass in 200, 500, 800, or 88. And then you can call it again, FF, and pass in another 3 values, 45, 0.7, and 88, like this. So this means that anytime you call it, you must pass in 3 values. and it will use those 3 values and solve arithmetic maths for you like this. So do you have any question? Now this is the final part. What if, you know, most times, I know some of us are guilty of these things. You go to a website and you'll be submitting the form without typing anything inside. The form is telling you, put in your score. You are not putting in your score. You are just submitting it like that. The form is telling you, put in your password. You are not putting password. You are just submitting it like that. Now, that thing you are doing is capable of crashing the back end if not being handled. What do I mean? So let me remove these ones and have this. Assuming we say the user must pass in 3 values, but the user goes ahead and pass in 2 values, what do you think will happen? Is he going to do the math? So if I save this and refresh, you see it is returning none. None stands for not a number, like this. Not a number. Now this means that the backend will crash because it cannot do a math without numbers. So what do you do in a case where the user is expected to enter 3 values, but the user is not entering 3 values? He's not even entering any value at all. So you as a backend developer, you should be able to handle it so that your backend does not crash. How do you handle it? You set default values. So what you can do is a function gg, I'm passing these parameters like this. Now let me just copy this thing here and put it here. So it is the same thing as this one. It's going to accept 3 values of A, B, and C. Now anytime you call it, you must pass in 3 values. What if the user doesn't pass in 3 values? So that is where you handle it as a backend developer. You set default value. You said this A is equal to 1. This is default value for A. Default value for B is equal to 2. Default value for C is equal to 3. So in a case where the user doesn't pass in any value at all, this backend will not crash because it will still calculate everything with the default value. Now, if the user goes ahead to enter only 1 value, that means that it will still calculate it like this. Now, if the user goes ahead, another user goes ahead to enter 2 values, 56 and maybe 70, and save it, if you refresh it, it will still print out a value. Now, if you have a good user that has the mind of God and enters all 3 values, it will still save it and calculate something. Now, doing this, your backend will not crash because you are adding default values to your function like this. So, but there is something you need to understand. Let me explain it with this here. When you are calling the function, the value of the first one will always be the value of A. The value of the second one will always be the value of B. The value of the third one will always be the value of this. So it does not change. It does not change. That means that 2 can never be the value of C. 3 can never be the value of A. The function is going to assign this first value to the first variable, this second value to the second variable, and this third value to the third variable. So this is how you use a function. Do you have any question before we come to the end of the class? Do you have any question so far on functions? I'm going to push this code to GitHub and I'll share it with you also. So do you have any questions so far? Any question? Drop it on the group. If you don't have a question, drop a thumbs up for me. If you don't have a question, drop a thumbs up. If you have a question, drop it on the group. Any question? No questions, no questions, no questions. So thank you. And what I will do is, for those who have not submitted their assignment, I will still go ahead and extend the submission date for that assignment to Friday. For those who have submitted the assignment, I am going to grade it and show out for the names of those who submitted the assignment. So you're going to see the names of those who submitted the assignment. Those who have not submitted it, I'll still give an extension of next week Friday. But in addition to it, I'll also be dropping 2 other assignments on Google platform. So submitting by mail. Now let me try and show you how to submit with GitHub. Let me do it again, how to submit with GitHub. To submit with GitHub, this is it. We have a folder here, and the name of the folder is called JavaScript 2. Now that is the name of this folder. Now, if you have done something and you want to push it to GitHub, this is how you will do it. You have that folder here. Go over to GitHub. Now I will make this bigger. Go over to GitHub. Let me remove this. Just log into GitHub and create a repo. You create a repo by clicking here, or click this plus sign and get create new repo. So if any of this will do the same thing, this or this. So if you click it, it's going to open an interface for you. Give it a name. I will call this JavaScript 2. JavaScript 2. Like this. So that is the name. The second thing you need to do is make sure that it is on public. Leave it on public. Now, if you don't leave it on public, other people won't see it. I won't see it, and nobody will see it except you add us by email. So, but just keep it on public, and then go ahead and click create. That's the 2 things you need to do. Give it a name, leave it on public, and click create. When you click on create, it will open another interface, which is this. Now, for now, just click on upload an existing file. Upload an existing file. So when you click on upload an existing file, it will open another interface, which is this. Then drag your folder. Drag your folder. Every time I don't know how to drag. Sorry, because so drag your folder and drop it here. So when you drop your folder here, it's going to upload everything. That line will run. Once it's done, click on commit changes, and that's all. So you click on commit changes, and that is all you need to do. So now, if you want to share it with me, you can either copy the link here or copy the link here. Anyone, you can copy it and you share with us. So that's how you submit the assignment. So for those who are looking for the code, I have actually pushed it on GitHub, and I've dropped the link for you on the group. Now ask your question. If you don't have a question and you are okay for us to end the class here, you can drop a thumbs up so that we end the class. What if I am using code space on GitHub? Fine. If you can submit that one too, so long as it is a link to GitHub that you want to submit, it's fine. Can we still have the video? Yes, definitely you will have the video. Let me confirm that I'm still recording. Yes, I am still recording. So definitely you have the videos. They'll send the videos to you. So, but like I said, if you have any issues, just drop the issues on the questions and answers topic, and I will address that later. And also, any other question. Tomorrow's class will start by 5 p.m. and we should be able to cover up a lot of stuff. So thank you for coming to today's class. Now, those who have not dropped your attendance, this is the last opportunity. Go to the class attendance topic and drop a thumbs up. Make sure that you've actually changed your full name. So by the time I'm ending this video, we'll stop taking attendance. Yeah. So that's all. Now, if you are okay to end the class, let's just drop a thumbs up so that we end the class. Thank you so much. See you again tomorrow by 5 p.m. And no questions? No questions. My full name is, wait, you've not answered the GitHub code space. Okay, in order for us all to be on the same pace, are you coding with code space on GitHub, or are you submitting your code with code base on GitHub? Which one are you doing? Gabriel Isaac, I think you can speak to me. Unmute yourself and go ahead and speak. Gabriel, you can unmute yourself. Go ahead and speak.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening there.
Hello, good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes, I submitted my own assignment using Codespace on GitHub. Is that okay? Or do I have to use VS Code or any other code editor?
Okay, I'm looking at my list here and I am not seeing your name. Gabriel, your name is Gabriel, so I'm not seeing Gabriel as a list. So what you can do is submit it again. I will accept it as code space. I will accept it like that. But later.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but
submitted
later,
it yesterday. Okay.
Yesterday. Okay. Submit it again. Drop it on the assignment and the assignment topics. Drop it there so I can see it. Tomorrow's class is by 5 p.m. Yeah, by 5 p.m. we'll be starting. So do we have any other question before we end the class? Any other question before we end the class? Okay, any other question before we end the class? So I'm going to actually drop the names of those who have submitted the assignment today, or maybe after tomorrow's class. I'll drop it so you get to see your name. I'll also drop an assignment by the end of tomorrow's class, or maybe today, anyone. So, but just expect an assignment by the end of tomorrow's class. Now, the current JavaScript assignment is still on. I've extended the submission date to this week, Friday. And for those who have submitted, I'm also going to drop the names of those who have submitted and I'll see their names. So I have 24 names here. Some persons did not submit JavaScript, so that is why I'm giving extension for JavaScript too. So in the absence of any question, now if you have already submitted all the assignments that I gave on the classroom, that you don't need to bother about GitHub. I'm talking about those who have not submitted. So if you have not submitted before, then you can submit with GitHub. If you have not submitted before, you can also submit that one directly as a private comment, but right now I will not know which one is a new one. So if you submit, you need to alert me, tag me that you have actually dropped your assignment. but that's why GitHub is important. Use GitHub if you've not submitted the assignment. But if you've already submitted it, the ones on the Google Classroom, you don't need to bother again. That's okay. All right. See you guys tomorrow. So I will be ending the call now. We'll continue again tomorrow. Good night and have a good rest.